I'm Tanner and this is Tannage Leather. In this video, we're going to be talking about buying leather and how to choose the right leather for the project that you're about to tackle. Buying leather can be pretty intimidating. You don't want to buy the wrong thing, but I know when you go shopping for leather, there are so many types of leather out there, it's hard to know if you're getting exactly what you want for your project. In this video, we're going to be talking about the types of leather, some of the terminology that you'll encounter as you're shopping for leather, so that when you go to buy that leather, hopefully it's going to be exactly what you want. So with so many different kinds of leather out there, it's really important to find the right kind of leather to suit your project. For example, the kind of leather I might use for a gun holster would not work very well for a tote bag or certainly not a wallet. So let's talk about some of the main things you're going to be looking for as you shop for leather for your specific project. So to keep it simple, let's just talk about the three main characteristics that you'll run across when you're doing your shopping for leather. So the first of these characteristics is the weight of the leather. Now when we talk about the weight of leather, we're not talking actually about how heavy it is, we're talking about how thick it is. So we talk about the weight of leather in ounces. And again, it doesn't have anything to do with weight on a scale. That ounces is in correlation to the thickness of the leather. So to give you an idea of how that will work, this is 3-ounce leather that I would use for something like a wallet. It's kind of thin. This is about 11-ounce leather. This is much thicker, and I'd use this for something like a belt. So just to give you a few examples of how that might look in the real world, this is a card wallet that I made from 3 to 4 ounce leather. So if you want to make a wallet, I think 3 to 4 ounce is a good place to start. This is a belt that I wear. This is 9 to 11 ounce. I think that's a nice place to start, even a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker leather than that could also work well. When I make a tote bag, I generally aim for 5 to 6 ounces for the body of the bag. I just have found that to work really well. And for the straps, I use basically what I would use for a belt. That 9 to 11 ounce seems to work really well. For something like a heavier satchel like this is 7 to 8 ounce leather. So maybe that just gives you an idea of what these weights of leather kind of look like in real world products. So if you want to talk about the numbers of it, 1 ounce of leather is equivalent to 1/64 of an inch in thickness. So you can kind of crunch the numbers and determine how thick your leather is if you know how many ounces it is. The next thing we'll talk about is the temper of the leather. We talk about temper in terms of being a firm tempered leather or a soft temper or a medium temper, something in the middle. So here I have 2 different hides. They're both 5-ounce leather, but they feel very different in your hand. This is a firm tempered leather. You can see it's kind of stiff, it wants to stay straight, whereas this is a soft tempered leather. It wants to flop around and not really hold its shape. So depending on the project that you're working on, you want to pick one or the other, or maybe something in between. Like a wallet is generally well suited in something like a firm tempered leather like this. Something like a floppy bag or some moccasins, some baby shoes, something like that. Something really nice and soft like this can be really cool. When I make a tote bag like this, I like to use a medium temper. I think it just ends up making for the nicest kind of bag. Next, let's talk about the tannage of the leather. Tannage refers to how the leather was tanned. And as leather crafters, we generally are talking about 2 main branches of tannages. So there's the chrome tan side and the vegetable tan side. And there's nothing better or worse necessarily about either one. I'll talk about both in kind of some big generalities here, but generally speaking, chrome tan leather is a little bit less expensive for us, which is good. It's the more prevalent kind of leather that we see just all around us in our shoes, on our couches and things like that. As I understand it, about 80% of the leather we see and use is chrome tan leather. And there's a few reasons for that. Lots of times it holds up a little bit better to the elements. It's able to just be a little bit tougher when it gets wet and dry and things like that. So that's a good thing. You might find chrome tan leather in all kinds of cool colors and things like that. So I use it lots of times for bags and I really enjoy it. Vegetable tan leather, on the other hand, is not inherently great at withstanding the elements because sometimes it's left in a more raw form. If you see something like a saddle or a gun holster or things like that, that's going to be a vegetable tan leather. Vegetable tan leather has some really cool characteristics that chrome tan leather generally doesn't. It can be wet molded, it can be dyed, it can be tooled. Lots of things you can do to vegetable tan leather like this that you can't do to chrome tan. But it needs to be finished. You need to put some extra care into the vegetable tan leather to make sure that it can withstand the elements like the chrome tan leather can. Having said that, there are some vegetable tan leathers that leave the tannery already finished and end up looking a lot like a chrome tan leather in terms of having some wax and oil worked into the leather during the tanning process and also being dyed like this one has been dyed. So you can't always tell just by looking which is which, so it's good to do a little bit of research as you're shopping. Again, you might find that the vegetable tan leathers, since the tanning process takes longer, they end up being a little bit more expensive often. So like I had mentioned, if you plan to do any dyeing or stamping or tooling or wet molding, anything like that to your leather, you're going to need some vegetable tan leather. Vegetable tan leather is really cool because it's kind of like a blank slate. It will absorb water, which you'll need to do for wet molding. It will keep its shape after it dries. If you want to dye it, this will absorb dye, and you'll need to finish it with some kind of a sealant afterward. Also, if you get it damp, you can stamp an impression into it. You can carve and do all kinds of things to vegetable tan leather, which you can't do to the chrome tan leather. So we talked about the main three characteristics that you'll run across as you're shopping for leather: the weight, the temper, and the tannage. And hopefully knowing a little bit more about each of those things will help you narrow down your options and find the right leather for your project. And from there, it's really just details, the fun stuff, the colors. Leather comes in every color of the rainbow, as you can imagine. It comes in different finishes, like a nice smooth, shiny finish, something that's a little more oily feeling or waxy. Some leathers have what we call a pull-up effect, where you bend the leather and it changes color. So that's really fun to explore. I enjoy looking at new leather all the time. Hopefully you can get your hands on some cool stuff soon as well. Well, I hope this has been valuable for you. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. If you have any more questions about what I talked about today, if I missed anything, if you want to go a little deeper, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back to those as soon as I can. Also, if you have ideas for future videos, I always love to hear them, and I'll try to incorporate your ideas into future videos as much as I possibly can. Thank you so much for joining me here. We'll talk to you soon.